All right. Welcome, JCC professionals from across the continent. I feel like I always need to introduce myself, but I know that the vast majority of you know me. Nevertheless, I will. I am Mark Young. I'm the director of J Response at JCC Association. J Responders. Um, and thrilled that you are here for what I believe is the eighth uh, monthly installment in our J Response series on readiness that we started back in March, both to expand and enhance the skills of those that have gone through our J Response training in Hineni, and to welcome all JCC professionals into the conversation of how we can aptly prepare for crises before they occur. As you've experienced previous iterations of this series, we've had folks from internal to our movement speak to us. We've had partners from outside the movement. And now we're taking that partnership global with our folks at JReady, which is from the Jewish Agency for Israel. I'm going to keep my brief introductions brief so we can get to the point. But this is our session, Crisis Management and Decision Making, Simulation Practice and Learning, with our facilitator, Dr. Ishai Dror. As part of the series, we're thrilled to welcome Dr. Dror, who he's told me just call him Ishai, so that's what I will do. A noted expert and lecturer from Israel on crisis management, security, and disaster management and scenario planning. I will tell you a little bit more about Ishai in a few moments. But he's going to conduct an interactive learning for Change J responders and all JCC professionals, engaging in exercises both in groups and all together that will simulate disaster response, explore challenges, and reflect on our decision making. As we've kind of tipped the iceberg of readiness in our Hineni, this will take us a little bit deeper. We want to start by telling you a little bit about what JReady is, because you may not know about JReady. JReady is actually fairly new, like JResponse is. I'm going to say a sentence and I'm going to pass it over to my colleagues in Israel. JReady was created by the Jewish Agency for Israel as a response to the COVID-19 pandemic and the challenging consequences that continue to impact Jewish communities around the world. I love this sentence, Samantha. JReady is by the community for the community initiative designed to assist with emergency preparedness, response, and rehabilitation. And we have on the call Yael Raz, Samantha Robinson, and Lior Sharir from JReady. And I'm going to pass it over to Samantha. Samantha, introduce yourself and just say for a minute to J responders a little more about JReady, because as J responders, we want you to know the wonderful work that's happening out there in response work, especially within the Jewish community, especially from our friends in Israel. You know, we've worked with Israel in the past, and now we're working with JReady. So Samantha, give us a minute.
Wow, thank you so much, Mark, for that introduction. So just as now I've become a co-host, I don't know if you guys are hearing the kind of sounds every time someone joins the call, but I'm getting that same excitement as if I'm getting like likes every time I've posted on Facebook. So it's just something wonderful to hear so many people joining here. And another person has joined the room. So about JReady and about myself, my name is Sam, as Mark said, and I work at the Jewish Agency for Israel. I'm part of the Global Worldwide Community Services Unit, which basically means I work with every single Jewish community around the world. It's a major privilege. The idea is really understanding the unique needs and challenges and strengths and abilities of every Jewish community around the world, and to see how we can respond to those needs and challenges, and also kind of pool the resources between different communities to support others. JReady, as Mark mentioned, really was developed just about a year ago, in November 2020. And it kind of developed as a response to the COVID pandemic, which unfortunately inflicted unprecedented hardships over every one of our global communities. I think for the first time in decades, Jewish communities all over the world were confronted with this shared challenge. And kind of in response to this crisis, we were turned to by various experts and individuals working with the Prime Minister's office and with the head security councils in Israel. In April, kind of towards the beginning of the pandemic outbreak in Israel, we felt like we had a really great grasp on the situation, and we had these experts turn to us and say, hey, wouldn't it be amazing if we could share these expertise that we've developed with other Jewish communities around the world and help them confront these challenges too? Unfortunately, the reality as we know it, looking forward, is that we've experienced many waves of COVID, but we've also understood that there are many other challenges that are emerging either as a result of the pandemic or in general, be it relating to anti-Semitism or mental health or natural disasters. What JReady really wants to do, and what we have been doing, is connecting with these global Jewish communities and organizations in order to provide these resources and responses, knowing that there are these expertise all over the world. And wouldn't it be amazing if we, for example, could take the challenges that California has experienced with wildfires and the challenges that Australia has experienced with wildfires, put these two communities together and create some kind of support network so they can share best practices and expertise. And that's where the Jewish Agency is really kind of the central feature, based in Israel, but with a global network all around the world. And we are able to provide that kind of connection between all these different communities, experts, and resources. That's really how we connected with JResponse as well, as this amazing organization, as you're all very familiar with it, which provides this kind of response in a very similar way to all of the communities around North America. We were very fortunate to connect with Mark and the team and understand a bit about what JResponse has been doing and see how we can use your expertise and your abilities and your best practices and everything that you've developed to support other Jewish communities around the world too. And likewise, for us to bring to you various experts to train you further in your personal experiences and lives and communities support and response. So that's kind of in a nutshell. We're here in general. If you have any questions, you can feel free to write them in the chat to us or to Mark, and we'll be available after the session as well if you have any further questions. Mark, I'm going to hand back over to you. Go ahead and introduce Ishai.
Sam, that was perfect. And I'm going to just put your URL in the chat. If you get nothing else out of today, and we hope you get a lot more else out of today, but if you get nothing else out of today, take a few moments to check out JReady, because they're there for you. And, you know, Leah Garber and I presented to a JReady group back in May, and this is them presenting to us. So we are trying to support each other's really important work. JResponse is only a few years old, and as you've heard, JReady is only a little over a year old at this point. I have the pleasure of introducing Dr. Ishai Dror, and then we're going to get started with our learning. Dr. Dror is a lecturer for several MBA programs, as well as a consultant in a business continuity and operational risk management, organizational work plans, and managerial information systems. He's conducted the largest managerial exercises in the business sector in Israel. He's formerly served as the minister's assistant responsible for planning and policy matters at the Ministry of Communication. He carried out consulting activities for the Bank of Israel, other large banks in Israel, El Al Airlines, Cellcom, Amdocs, the Prime Minister's Office, the Israel Bar Association. The list just keeps going and going. He is an expert in all things readiness. I'm going to spotlight him right now so you can see Dr. Dror. And Ishai, thank you so much for preparing this session for our JResponders so we can take your expertise in this experience both back to our JCCs in our preparedness, as well as offer it to folks that we engage with throughout our movement and beyond. So let me stop talking and share Dr. Ishai Dror with you.
Well, hello, all of you. Here is night, evening. The first half of our meeting, I will present you some of my ideas regarding crisis management and decision making during a crisis. And the second half of our meeting will be dedicated to some simulations in which I want to see you reacting to almost real crisis. You can ask anything or comment anything during this meeting. Since I don't have the time to answer chats, please, if any one of you wants to say anything, just say, can I say something? And if you are nice, I will let you say something, okay? So I want to start with a short video. Those of you who have a weak heart, please lower the volume or look the other side.
It was a kind of violence that's been unheard of in New York City. Pro-Palestinian demonstrators clashing with supporters of Israel.
I mean, they were just wailing on my head, beating on me. I'm like just literally cowering for cover. I'm surrounded by like 10, 15 people. And at that point, like, I was just, bracing for, impact.
This is an ABC News special report.
Good morning. We're coming on the air right now with breaking news. For those of you watching with young children in the room, you may want to ask them to leave right now. There has been a shooting at a synagogue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Just moments ago, police reporting there are multiple casualties with 3 officers shot. The suspect is in custody. Multiple law enforcement agencies now responding. Police are telling people in that area to avoid the area. They are also telling people who live in that neighborhood to stay in their houses and lock their doors, saying it is not safe to be out.
You see this protocol, unfortunately, playing out time and time again because we're having so many mass shootings on such a regular basis. This is now almost routine in this country to see multiple people shot in situations just like this.
Good morning, everybody. We're coming on the air early with breaking news this morning. A massive search and rescue operation underway at this hour after the partial collapse of a high-rise condominium building in Surfside, Florida. That's just north of Miami Beach. That's the scene right now.
Local fire and rescue efforts and certainly Miami Beach police have not updated at this point, Savannah, how many injuries or potential fatalities there are. Just a devastating scene where behind me there are fire trucks for blocks from multi-jurisdictional agencies all over South Florida doing what they can right now, Savannah.
This event is the worst, most devastating, most deadly tornado event in Kentucky's history.
Buildings leveled, streets now disaster zones. The American Midwest devastated by more than 30 separate tornadoes, sending debris more than 9 kilometres into the air. A candle factory razed to the ground. 110 people were inside, working around the clock to meet Christmas demand.
My friend Roberta was buried under 5 feet of rubble, and her sister was on top of her, and she's in Murray Hospital. And her husband's the one that came and saved her and her sister, and he saved other people from dying under there. I heard it go through. It was awful.
Amid the fear and destruction of Hurricane Sandy bearing down on northeastern territories of the United States on Monday, the Jewish communities of New York and New Jersey reportedly came together via online social networking sites to support, entertain, and help one another. Trapped cybernauts spent their time posting images of the destruction taking place around them, such as a photograph of a tree breaking through the roof of the Isabella Freedman Jewish Retreat Center in Connecticut, and information on power outages sweeping the area.
Scientists around the world are racing to understand COVID's new mutant strain, the Omicron variant. As of today, it's now been identified in at least 17 states. New COVID cases are up 19% over the past 2 weeks, with daily cases topping 108,000.
36 states, hospitalizations are trending up, and 3 out of 4 counties are considered high transmission areas.
Hospitalizations in Connecticut more than doubling in the last month.
100% of our patients who are admitted to the hospital are vaccinated.
100%
right now, today. Every day, it's a little bit like going into battle, and we recognize that this is not over yet.
It is not my intention to frighten anyone. It was just my intention to show that crises are real and they are very tough, or can be very tough. And sometimes we can have 2 or even 3 crises at a time. Here you can see about myself, but I want to start with something about crisis in general. All of you are technological people. Please, through this barcode or through the URL, please enter the internet site and write in one word, what is a crisis for you? One word.
Just a technical note that you can also use your phone and just with your camera, put it in front of the QR code, and it'll take you to the website too to fill in the answer.
Okay. Do you succeed?
Gray boxes on the screen.
Hmm?
We're seeing just some gray boxes on the screen.
No, please
Ah,
write.
there we go.
I will show you the answers.
We see it now.
Okay, you see?
Mm-hmm.
So this is what you wrote. The larger the font, the larger the number of people who wrote it. So the first thing I can see is emergency. Who wrote emergency? What does it mean, emergency? Don't be shy.
Feel free to unmute yourself or throw it in the chat if you want to respond.
Requires immediate attention.
Speak. Huh?
It requires immediate attention, an emergency.
Emergency required, okay. Immediate attention, okay.
Something urgent.
If you see a nice guy and you want to ask him to go out and you think that he is leaving and you have to react immediately, this is emergency.
You did ask for one word.
Yeah, but emergency is okay. I just want to know what is emergency in your ideas. You use a lot, or we use a lot, the concept of emergency in crisis management. But do we really understand what does it mean?
An imminent threat to safety.
Okay, immediate, okay. Now, other?
Something urgent. Something urgent also came up.
Yeah, but I ask you if anything urgent is emergency.
Events that lead to chaos. I'm just reading what's in the chat. Events that lead to chaos was a response.
Okay, so we'll talk about emergency in a second. Challenge. Who wrote challenge? Somebody wrote it. Please don't be shy. Speak up.
I wrote it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, sorry. I'm in a construction zone right now, so I am going to mute myself again. Thank you.
So, who wrote challenge? No one.
I think Jess wrote challenge, but she just has to mute herself because she's in a construction zone.
Okay. Helplessness. Who wrote it?
That was me, and possibly others.
Why don't you speak?
I'm speaking up.
We're speaking, Ishai.
Huh?
I wrote helplessness, and the reason that I put that in there is because I feel like a crisis means that you don't have control of the situation. Like if it's an emergency, you can have a response. You can have some level of control of the situation, which means it's not a crisis as such.
Okay, so we have two concepts or three concepts. I mean, the challenge went away, but we'll talk also about challenges. So we have the emergency, the immediate risk that we have to respond to, and but at the same time, we don't have a control. We are helplessness. So these are maybe two of the most important characteristics of crisis. On the one hand, we are in a situation that is bad. On the other hand, we don't have the possibility to respond the way we wish to. we are limited in our response. We'll see it in our next slides. What does it mean? So in Greek, crisis means a decision, a judgment. Any idea what is the relationship between crisis and decisions?
Ishai, I hate to interrupt you. We're just seeing your gray screen again. I think there might be a screen in front of your PowerPoint, but we're just seeing gray. We're not seeing your PowerPoint at the moment.
And now?
Now we see what is a crisis. Now we see we see it, yes.
Okay, you see it? Okay. So why decision?
Can you just share the question one more time so we can hear it? Because I was interrupting.
I mean, I said in Greek, crisis means decision. Asking why decision? Why decision when we talk about crisis?
Well, if you don't make a decision, then things are going to get a lot worse. I mean, it's a critical point in time to make the decision. Something terrible is about to happen, so you better do something. That's how You
better do something. Okay.
Sometimes you have to make a choice, and not making a choice is also making a choice. Like not making a decision or not choosing to take an action is also some sort of a choice.
So the Greek, the ancient Greek were very rational, and they thought a lot about rationality. So they use exactly what you're saying. Crisis, or better, crisis management is first of all about taking decisions or making decisions. And a crisis manager is the one who has to take or make decisions. On the other hand, the Chinese, maybe you know it, the concept of crisis, some people say that it's not true, but it's nice anyway. That the concept of crisis in Chinese means danger and opportunity. The challenge went away. The one who wrote challenge, but no one of you wrote opportunity. Do you agree that a crisis is also opportunity, not only danger? You are too polite. Please speak up. Come on.
I'll say something. I would think that the opportunity, it's definitely the crisis is a necessary opportunity to make decisions. It's not necessarily ones that we want to be put in place, but it has to be. So there's no choice but to make decisions on whatever crisis is happening at the time.
Okay, any more ideas about opportunity?
I have one.
Yeah, please.
I like to think that, you know, in a crisis, we often think that we are helpless, this is a disaster, but to think of it as an opportunity, it's very empowering, and it helps us recenter to feel and see what we can do to get out of the problem. It's a solution-oriented mindset. Exactly,
empowering. But unlike this picture, this concept, written concept, I don't think danger and opportunity are similar, or even they come together automatically. Danger comes without asking you, or without asking us. For opportunity to come, we need to be to make a lot of efforts. And during a crisis, to seek for an opportunity is really difficult. Nevertheless, we have to ask for it, to search for it, and to do something that during the crisis or after the crisis, we really have an opportunity. So unlike danger, opportunity doesn't come automatically. what is a crisis? All of us know, acts of terror, natural disasters, but these are not crises.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you mind sharing the presentation in presentation mode? Because I feel like we're not following along with you with your slides.
I don't know what happened here today, but I'm in.
We've all experienced many technical failures over the past couple of years, so you're not alone here.
Okay. We're still looking at slide 5, which is the screen.
This is not a presentation mode, and this is presentation mode.
Okay, we're at
I think something with my co-host doesn't work very well. This is the presentation mode. I cannot do anything better if.
All right, so we, Dr. Dror, I want you to keep going. We're on threats and crisis. So if it looks like we're not on the right slide, we'll just advise you and you'll move it forward. So I think we're on the correct slide now.
Okay, so you see acts of terror, natural disasters, cyber attacks, pandemic. We call them crises, but these are not the crises. The crises are these, the damages. Look at the damages. The damages are those which create the crisis. Because if fires and acts of terrors don't create damages, they are not crises. Why I'm saying it, it's not only something to talk about, but when we manage a crisis, we need to manage or to deal with the damages or potential damages. So let's have it in mind, the damages, and that crisis management is about damages control or diminishing damages. When we talk about resilience, I'm going very fast on this introductory slides. You will have the presentation later, but just to give us idea what the crisis here is about and why to manage crisis is very difficult. So when we talk about resilience, it's the ability to deal with changes and threats while returning as quickly as possible to the original state or to another stable state.
Dr. Dror,
next slide. I emphasize here the another stable state. In the corona, we call it the new normal, but nobody still, no one knows what is this new normal. We have to create this new normal during the crisis, and when we talked about opportunity, this is exactly this. No one still knows what is this new normal after the corona. Can anyone say what will be if we win the corona, or how it will be if we don't win the corona? So, but another stable state is a very important state that we have to take and to have in mind, not simply automatically go back to the previous state. We talk about two sorts of threats, the operational and the strategic.
Dr. Dror, I'm going to interrupt you again because we're still on the threats and crisis slide on our screen.
So I don't know what I can do. The co-sharing is not, I'm doing a lot of presentations.
For sure.
And everything goes very smoothly. So I don't know.
Yes. Because I want us to be able to really focus on what you're saying. And I understand the frustration. I know all of us want to just really focus on what you're saying.
What do you see now?
We just see a gray screen.
Very good.
Maybe stop share and start sharing again, and then press the play slideshow from the beginning, and then you can just skip through it, perhaps.
To make sure that it's working, because I think you're speaking about a future slide, and we want us to really connect. All right, so
here we go.
That's so much better because now we're on threats and crisis. But now advance the slide so we can see the next slide.
Now you see what causes a crisis?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Okay, let's try. Let's try and continue.
Perfect.
So
now we're on
the resilience.
Yes.
Okay. So we have two sorts of threats: the operational and the strategic resilience. Just to understand what are the operational threats, you can see on the left acts of violence, war events. On the right, we see the strategic threats: continuing crisis, financial crisis, organizational, social crisis. What do you think the corona? Is it operational or strategic?
Aspects of both. I don't think it's just one.
Okay. The corona started as operational, at least we thought it is operational, and we responded to it as operational very quickly, but we really didn't know what is happening. But then it became to strategic one. It combines financial, social, and organizational crisis as well. So you see some operational threats can become also strategic. And one of our aims when dealing with operational crisis is to diminish the possibility of this crisis to become strategic. And if we don't succeed, we have economic crisis, organizational crisis, or social crisis. Decision-making. I will go fast because we lost time. If we see the life cycle of a crisis, we are in a comfort zone. And then when a crisis comes, all of a sudden our danger zone soars while our comfort zone drops down very quickly. So we have this gap between the danger zone and the comfort zone, which make us very uneasy or helplessness, as some of the participants said. So when we talk about emergency, we talk about the first stage of the crisis in which we need to respond very quickly. But then a crisis doesn't end, or many times doesn't end after the immediate response. Crisis can continue and continue, and we still manage them. Again, the corona, but not only the corona. And then we call this, the next stage, we call it business or functional continuity. We behave differently in the immediate response and in the business and functional continuity. Other teams are working, or some other teams are working in these two different stages, while also the timeline scale is different. Here in the immediate response, our main goal is to save life, to save people. On the other hand, in the business and functional continuity, we need to continue our almost, or as possible, as regular continuity. So that's why I say that emergency is not everything that we have to say about crisis management. In the corona, we are now in the business of functional continuity, not in the immediate response. But we have these two stages also in other crises. And at the end, but it's not the end, we have also the adaptation and recovery. The crisis, even when we say that the crisis is over, we still have to recover ourselves, our systems, and the people. We'll talk about how we recover people also after a crisis. If I show it in a different way, we have the first stage is a shock and confusion, surprise. Then we have to recognize that we are in a crisis. And after that, we are responding the immediate response. After that, we have the continuity, the business or functional continuity, and after that, the recovery. And again, each of these stages has its own characteristics and its own mode of operation. This is very important. So all plans need to take into consideration these 4 stages in dealing with crisis. Another thing, we have incident severity levels. The American like to do everything very complex and complicated. So for example, the American Army has not less than 10 levels of severity. We use less levels of severity. We have the routine. Then the alert. The alert is very important. The alert is a situation that we have signs or some official alert that something may happen, but without any tangible damages yet. The alert is very important, and also our plans need to take into consideration how we should behave in alerts. And then we have 2 severity levels. Again, American likes to do many more levels, but in the civil society, it's too complicated to do more than 2 levels of crisis. In order to strengthen the sense of security in the face of uncertainty, many people or many managers make these mistakes. We rely on past experience. I mean, we have the experience of previous crises, so we know exactly what to do now. We adhere to routine procedure. We are doing what we are used to do in regular times, and we strive to reach consensus. All of this, what is written here, are bad advices. I mean, they are not helping us in dealing correctly with crisis. On the other hand, they will lead us to make mistakes, and very serious mistakes. The best or better principles to deal with crisis and uncertainty are these. First, openness and creativity. This is very easy to say, but in a crisis, some managers or even many managers try to act like dictators. Don't bother me now with your stupid questions or stupid suggestions. Do exactly what I'm telling you. This is a mistake. Since we are dealing with a situation that nobody actually experienced exactly in the past, and it is a very unregular situation, it is a very good idea to hear people briefly, but to hear other people and not necessarily people of high level, but you can also hear people from the field, what should be done and how it should be done. So openness and creativity is very important, and in the discussions how to deal with the crisis, although we are short of time, it's very important to be open and to support creative thinking. Brain sharing, it's the way we actually put this openness and creativity in reality. I use the word brain sharing and not brainstorming. I don't know, storming reminds me of tornadoes and hurricanes. So brain sharing is better in my idea. Systemic observation. Don't look just at the specifics of the crisis that you see in your eyes now or that somebody saw. Look at the bigger picture. All the time as managers, you need to look at the bigger picture. Simulations are very important, not only before a crisis, but also during crisis. If the crisis, for example, in the corona, we are making here now simulations every maybe 1 month or so. managerial simulations, risks and opportunity management. Again, not only before a crisis occurs, but also during the crisis. You need somebody who will look and raise it during the managerial meetings, the risks and opportunities during the crisis. And one of the most important is a flexible managerial management mechanisms. I'll show you my idea about it in a second. So if we take it all together, what I said now, we have the three C's: communication, cooperation, and command structures. These are not only slogans. The more we apply these three C's, the more we have the chance to deal better with the crisis. And they are very easy to say, they are very difficult to implement during the crisis. So communication and cooperation and a suitable command structure. Leadership. I don't know if you heard of the concept of VUCA. VUCA is a concept that was invented, I would say, by the American Army in Afghanistan and Iraq to provide some sense of why the wars or the battles in Afghanistan and Iraq were so different than in for example, in the Second World War or previous wars. And VUCA stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So this is exactly the situation of a crisis, the environment of crisis. It is volatile situation, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. That's why managing crisis is very, very difficult. Unlike other experts that you see in television, when a crisis occurs, for example, now you had the tornadoes. I'm sure that you had millions of experts in the television. I don't think that it is easy to manage a crisis. I think it is very difficult to manage a crisis, and I don't have just easy suggestion, or just hear what I'm saying and everything will be okay. To manage a crisis is difficult. Because of this, the environment is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Remember that to manage a crisis is very difficult. So we need leaders during a crisis. Leaders must be seen, set an examples. You can read it, I hope. You can read it. All of these are very easy slogans to say. But in most cases, we don't see our leaders, our managers behaving like that. Because again, it's very difficult during a crisis to be a real leader. And people who are leaders in regular times not necessarily will be leaders in crisis times. So what do we expect? I will go fast on it because again, you will get this presentation later. We need to communicate. Communicate. Don't make decisions by yourself or only with your 1-2 friends. Communicate and make decisions. Don't let other people take decisions or staying without decisions. Take responsibility. It's very easy to say again. I haven't seen many leaders or politicians or managers taking responsibility during the crisis or after that, and engage stakeholders. So a leader needs ideas, needs values and determination and emotional energy, and with this, come up with decisions. Look at it and think, if you can be a leader during a crisis. I mean, I'm expecting every manager to try to be a leader in a crisis, no matter is level. I mean, leaders are not only top managers or top politicians. Every one of us during a crisis needs to try to behave like a leader. But for this, you need ideas, you need values, and you need determination and emotional energy, and above all, making decisions. Community. I'm going fast because I want to start with the simulations. Community resilience is built of economic resilience, social resilience, and personal resilience. But it also is built, and it depends on the stakeholders of the community. And we have stakeholders in the inner cycle, but we also have stakeholders in the outer cycles. During a crisis, we must consider all the stakeholders, their needs, their expectations, and to respond to these needs and expectation. It is very important. I'm always saying that crisis management, to a large extent, is stakeholders management. Look at these groups. I mean, this is a very generic slide, but more or less it suits most of the communities. During a crisis, you all the time need to consider the needs and expectations of the stakeholders. Remember that. Not only to deal with the specific incident, but to see again the broader picture. So I said that I will show you the setup, the organizational setup that I believe should be implemented during a crisis. First of all, centralization of decision making. When I'm saying centralization, I'm not saying something against the openness. Centralization means that we take decisions in one place. But in order to take these decisions, we need to hear many people. Not everybody can do whatever he wants or she. Close coordination, we talked about coordination and stakeholders engagement. In my idea, this is the generic organizational setup for crisis management during a crisis. The crisis management team is a top-level team, unlike the community emergency response team, which is built of very professional people. There are security people and other people. But the crisis management team is built of the highest level managers, because we want their perspective on the crisis, their perspective on the stakeholders management. And too many times I see organizations that their crisis management team is built of lower level people. They are very important, but they are professional. They need to do the professional decisions and the professional response. And then we need some situation room. Situation room can be one person, somebody who is a contact person or can contact function to get and receive information, and then to convey it to the upper teams. But we also have to convey information to our stakeholders. So we need some function for information communication to the stakeholders, and also some sharing forums in on technological platforms, but also in physical meetings. And then we need some task force, specific task force, according to the crisis.
Dr. Dror, I just want to chime in. I'm not sure if it's okay if we can just move to the simulations. I'm just noticing the time, and this is so much amazing, great information. And I know folks want to engage a little bit and talk to each other and play it out.
Okay, let me continue, please. Okay, and then we have the external authorities that we have to deal with. The last thing I want to mention is emotional traumas after or during and after crisis. We many times forget it, and people really, we see it in Israel, people with trauma symptoms, post-trauma symptoms, we see them, many people, after all sorts of crises, and we need to take care of them as well. So let's go to the simulations. Let's see if we have time for 3, but we start with the first. But first, you will be divided into groups in rooms. I will send you a task. You'll have 7 minutes or 8 minutes to prepare this task. Then you'll come to the plenary and we'll discuss it. And then, as much time as we have, we'll continue with the 2 other simulations. So your response need to be very brief, in bullet point, not many words, very focused. You can prepare it on a slide of PowerPoint. And what I want is creativity, clearness, and applicability of your solution. I'll send this one for you. You can take a picture of it.
I'll take a picture of it.
Take a picture of this slide. And now I'll send you to the breakout rooms, and you'll have 7 minutes to come out with your plan.
I just want to make sure before we send you into breakout rooms that everyone have a chance to just quickly take a photo of it. I can also, if you can, screenshot it, just take a quick picture with your phone, or if one person in each group. Excellent, that way you have it. And I'm going to put you into groups of 7 or 8, and you'll have about 7 minutes. Feel free to just, write down notes on your own, and you can, share it in the chat too when we come back. So
okay, I'm opening the rooms now.
Okay, it's great. It's 1:28, so we'll give people 7 minutes. Dr. Dror, just looking at the time, we'll probably, let's debrief the first round and see if we have enough time for the second round, because we have about a half an hour total left.
We'll see. we'll continue and we'll see how much time we have.
Okay, I think it also might be helpful if people can, I'd rather have more time to debrief and discuss than to rush through. So I'll follow your lead. Okay, we're back.
Okay, first group. Can you present or say what you have in mind, how to react to this situation? Come on, somebody. Carla.
I'll go.
You go. Joseph.
So, yeah, I was happy that everyone seemed to be on the same page.
Joseph, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
We can hear him.
Yeah?
I untapped the mute.
Okay. Continue.
I was pleased to see that everyone else on the group pretty much had the same protocols as we have here. First of all, get our high level team together to make sure we have a similar message going out. We have a unified message to go out firstly towards our staff, our parents, our board members. So starting with that circle, kind of starting with the small circle and expanding outward. Try to control the message before it gets out on social media, and notify our local law enforcement and FBI. Because sometimes we found specifically if it's a Jewish related security threat, the local force might not be on their radar. So
and what is the message that you want to convey to the stakeholders?
Well, I need to know more of the situation, but we would just tell them that there is
sometimes this is all the information you have.
Might say it's just a growing concern. We are monitoring the situation. We'll keep you informed if we know of any active or direct threats.
Okay, let's continue with other groups and then we'll see. Other group, please. Thank you very much, Joseph. Another group, please. Quickly.
I can speak for group 4. So group 4, we didn't get all the way through the message, but we also set up, pulling our task force together, which would be our leadership, the people that deal with the media, whether that's marketing or PR, depending on your agency, and security, whether that means internal or locally, but we all have different definitions for that. Determine the best way to communicate to the key stakeholders, members, community, staff, lay leaders, such as the local synagogues, and that our message should be transparent, and that to not create a sense of urgency yet, that we're monitoring the situation, and to also, I think that Joseph mentioned social media, but we said to minimize what's on social media so we can get our message out quickly so that people can stay calm and know that we are transparent and monitoring it.
Excellent, but what will be the message?
We didn't get that.
Again, the same question.
We ran out of time.
But what do you think? What sort of message you will convey?
I think that we would want to convey that we are monitoring the situation. So we've had this happen here at our JCC. We did not, so for example, take Pittsburgh. It wasn't happening here. So we let them know this is what happened in Pittsburgh. We do not believe at this time there's a local threat. We are monitoring things locally to make sure that, if something is coming in, that we can make them aware of it. So we have always been lucky enough not to be the area that has been deep in threat. So we always remind people that nothing has happened here. We're monitoring to the situation, and for the Pittsburgh example, and we stand with Pittsburgh. So that would be the message that we would typically provide.
Thank you very much. Another group. Come on.
I'll go. I'll go. I was in group 5, and
you see who are the leaders here in this crisis management. Okay, Alexis, thank you.
We talked about the concern about personal fear and wanting to make sure that the advice that we gave was evidence-based on how to protect themselves. We wanted to give the advice that if they see something, to say something. Wanted to assure people that there was cameras in the building and that our security is up to date and available to, and that they're on top of things. And that we were also connecting with the police and law enforcement to make sure that the community was as safe as possible, along with the other community organizations. So
Okay.
that's as far as we got.
Okay, another group, then we'll make a discussion. Yes, please. Another leader, another group leader. Okay, I will not force you. But you see, during a crisis, you cannot just hide beyond the screen. You have to be visible, to set up an example, and to speak up. Okay, so the focus of the two first group was on the procedures for the communication. To whom? You didn't say exactly how you will communicate with different stakeholders. You have to take it into account. I mean, this you need to prepare before the crisis in your plans. I don't know if you have plans for crisis management, but you need to decide how you convey the messages to the various or different stakeholders, because not all of them will get the messages by the same platform. Regarding the messages themselves, I know that you didn't have time, but in crisis, you don't have time. I want you to feel it. I mean, we are not in class in the academic. We don't have time. And one suggestion also is to prepare in your plans some generic messages for the main threats: earthquake, fire, or I don't know, tornado or natural disaster, to prepare some generic messages to the various stakeholders. So during a crisis, that when you don't have time, you take these generic messages and you need to change them, but it's easier to adapt them and change them on the basis of something that you have already beforehand. What I didn't hear in your messages is you convey your message, but how people to whom they can call or approach in order to get information. This is very important. That's why I said, when I showed the slide of the organizational setup, that you need some situation room, some functionary that will receive calls or receive messages in WhatsApps or whatever. But people need to know to whom you can provide a telephone number or telephone or a number of WhatsApp or whatever. But people need to know to whom they can call or approach or ask questions. This is very important. It's not a one-way messaging, okay? So this is very important. And what is very important for people, it is excellent that you are monitoring the situation. When I'm hearing politicians saying that they are monitoring the situations, I start to be worried about the situation. What are you doing? I mean, I want to know what are you doing, and especially what do you expect from me to do? What do you expect that I will? What are you telling them to do? Monitoring is very good, but it's not enough. We are talking about decisions and actions. So you have to say what you are doing, the organization, but also to offer some suggestions or recommendation to the people what to do. Look at the media, the general media, or look at our site, or do this and this. Okay, let's go. I want to do the second one. We'll do it in another way. We'll do it in a plenary mode. I will show you slides, and I want you to comment on that. So, just tell me, do you see the slide, the task number 1? Just, okay.
Yes.
So let's go to a second situation. This is the second situation. You can read it. Okay. All of a sudden, so this is what you know. What are you doing? This is emergency. What are you doing?
Moving staff and children to a secure, safe location in the facility.
Okay, what is a secure location?
A ground level room with no windows.
Okay.
Shelter in place.
Okay.
I want to know, because you say that there's a park, we send our children out to the park on a regular basis. I want to know if there are groups out in the park or if they're all in the school at this time. So I want to know where everyone is. And so I want to be asking the head of school, you know, where are your groups right now? Who's out?
Thank you very much, Howard. Thank you very much. Because you see, your way of thinking is that we will act exactly according to our plan. But maybe many children are outside. This is, you need to look in a broader view, broader perspective. What is the situation? Are we now, the children are in classes or in a break? Okay, so look at it, and then you have to act accordingly to the situation. It's very important. By the way, I'm sure you practice, maybe you practice it to send all the children to, but believe me, in reality, it's a big mess. Children are crying, panic. So it's not only to take the children and the teachers in the stairs to the shelter, but it's to talk with them, to try to tell them what is happening and be with them. So it's not only a technical issue, but let's continue. This is the situation now.
Here is that in this scenario, you only have 7 staff members, and these 7 staff members have to manage 250 children, plus all the parents that are now gathering around the entrance to the school.
Yes.
So a big part of this is the advanced planning for crisis, you know, like making sure that the staff members who would be on site at any given time have kind of allocated roles and know what to do and are prepared, God forbid, for a situation like this.
Yes, but in many crisis situations, the emergency, the beginning of the crisis, we have a shortage of people. Not only of people who know what to do. This is a very typical situation. So I'm asking you, in this situation, what you are doing?
I'll say something. You probably have set up, like our organization, we have a special message platform that we use to text that we can text our members. So I'm hoping that, you would have something like that in place where you could communicate with the parents and saying for them to keep away, and that everybody's okay, and that we would probably have to instill something for them to come pick up the kids if it's a gas explosion. And you have to evaluate the problem.
Deborah, how would you communicate with all the parents?
Well, we have, like, say, we're in our preparedness for emergency response, we have set up a special platform where we can communicate emergency situations with our staff or with our board members or with our membership.
Okay, but this is again one-way messaging.
Yeah.
I mean, people are calling and people are coming to the school. The platform doesn't help you with these people who are coming to the school in a panic.
But I mean, again, if you send the message before, hopefully you will avert the panic.
No, they will hear about it before you. This is emergency. This is emergency. I want you to understand what is emergency. You don't have the time to set up the platform, to call Jonathan from somewhere to send a message. People are in panic. This is the emergency. You saw in Pittsburgh, but not only in the tornado. People they are in panic. They want you. What to do? By the way, there is a police, there are the fire brigades. This is not your job. This is not your job. There is the Red Cross. But what are you doing in such situations?
Well, let's raise up Natalie. Natalie, go ahead.
Thank you. Doctor, I think maybe one of the things is one of the 7 staff members would have to go and confront the parents and explain to them why they are doing what they are doing, which is going to be in the best interest of the child, and then have to, with the 6 remaining staff, try to figure out where is the best place to do a reunification, because that might not actually be at the school at that particular time. But all of that, as you are.
But do you have this procedure in your plans? The emergency, yes. the first response. Most plans don't have it. This is not to criticize. Most plans don't have it. They have the second stage plan. And this is a most crucial stage. That's why I'm talking about it.
If I have
what
7
people need, yes, Howard?
If I have 7 people and parents start showing up, I'm drafting them, making them volunteers, and having them filter who's coming in the building. And they're going to work with my security team, because not anyone's coming in the building just because they're gathered outside. I'm not letting people in a crisis take the children and maybe take the wrong children or come into the building when they may be armed. So I'm not just letting these people in. I may grab some parents that I know and turn them into volunteers and or extra security.
Okay, excellent. So in such situations like Pittsburgh, I mean, it's not the same. You need a very quick response to close the area and to explain people what they are allowed and what they are not allowed to do. To do this, you need to prepare the right people to do it. You have to act very quickly, because parents will not wait to your messages in the internet. Nobody is waiting when you hear something like that, or when there is a tornado, or when there is something that comes very quickly. So what my emphasis here is the emergency stage. You need to decide how to do it, who is doing it, and how you do it very quickly. People need information, again, not only one way, but also to whom can I call and ask questions. So you need a situation room to give this information or to collect the questions. Again, it can be one person, it can be 2.
Having mic problems, but she brought up a very important point about not being able to release any of the children out of the care in the middle of a crisis. So
exactly.
It's very important.
This is what I'm saying, to close the area. We say it in Hebrew, to close the area very quickly. Even if you have an earthquake or anything, I mean, even a terror attack. In many crises, you need to close. This is what the police is doing, but the police is doing it in a wider area. Your task is to do it in your Jewish institute or relevant Jewish institute that might have been attack damaged or has the potential to be damaged or attacked. Okay, close the area. You need people to do it. And again, immediate, yes, Natalie.
So if you are to close the area, why, my gut reaction is not to allow any family into the building, even if they are known, because there is a threat outside.
Exactly.
Granted, we do know these families. I know each of them intimately for the past 7 years, but it seems counterintuitive to allow a certain number of people into the building, because then I'm now responsible for more souls in the building, rather before I was only responsible for 156. Now I'm responsible for maybe.
If you have a real situation or even a potential, you need to close. You don't let anyone
Correct.
take children, and then you contact the police and ask them for guidelines.
Yes, I would
But
agree.
don't let people get inside or get outside, okay?
Okay.
Unless there is a fire and in the building and you want all of them, yes, to go outside. But if the threat is in the environment, you need to close it. We call it to close the area. And you need to be in contact with the police to understand the more general guidelines. Yes, Samantha, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just that we're so short on time. We only have a couple of minutes left. So I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, it's okay. You all the time remind me that I have my clock.
Just making sure.
Okay.
And I know that Mark wants a minute or two to sum up as well.
We are not going to solve all the issues here. What I wanted to show in the first simulation was to put attention to alert situation and to be able to communicate the two side communication, not only one side, not only convey, but also to let people, give them the possibility to ask questions and get information. And the second one, the emergency situation, to close the area and contact the police to understand for more general. So the last one, we have 3 minutes. Yeah, okay, in my clock. We'll do it also like that, not in rooms. Post-incident. So you see, we had alert, we had emergency situation, now we have post-incident plan. As I said, the crisis doesn't end when it physically ends. What are you doing 2 days after the incidents? Please.
So I'm going to take this one, Ishai, because I want to be respectful of time. One of the things that we focus on J-Response, specifically J-Responders, is our role in psychological and mental health first aid and being a physical presence for anybody who's experienced trauma or is experiencing post-trauma as a result of an incident. So, our relevant stakeholders could be folks that are licensed medical professionals, Jewish Family Services, and others that can be American Red Cross, that can be available to talk to people how they're feeling after a traumatic incident like this.
Do you have it in all the communities in the United States? Or only in the main communities, in the larger communities?
Well, so on our part of J-Response is getting as many JCCs. There's 170 plus JCCs. So we are in more and more of them. We're in well over half of them already, with individuals that are trained in mental health first aid. And I would say almost all.
Did you use them now in the tornadoes?
Well, more offline, because we don't have JCCs where the tornadoes were hit, but we already have a JCC that's close by that's gathering resources and volunteers to support the affected communities.
Yeah, my point is that you usually have this setup in larger communities, but also smaller communities can have post-trauma. By the way, it's not only mental, it can be also economical issues or supply management and other issues. What I'm trying to say is that it's very good that you have it in larger communities, but you have to take care that the larger communities can assist in physically, not only offline, because people after the tornado, they really need help now, not just good, nice words. That's why I ask now, because I'm sure I think there are no large Jewish communities over there. At least I didn't hear about it, but there are Jews over there. So the post-incident plan, it's very important. And in this, what I want to emphasize is the networking. I mean, larger communities need to assist also smaller communities because not every community has the ability to set up mental assistance or other logistical assistance. So I want to end here. Sorry for the technical issues, but okay.
So, Dr. Dror, I want to thank you and everyone at JReady so much for putting this together. We will be sending out the PowerPoint so folks can take a look. There was so much great information, so we'll send it out. We'll put it in our readiness sections of JResponse. I just want to highlight, some really important things that you said, that don't just monitor, but really understand what are you doing in an emergent situation and how you can act in a two-way conversation with your stakeholders. I think that's something that elevates the work that we've done in readiness that much more. So really appreciate that. Feel free to take your PowerPoint is still up if people want to look at it. And I just want to, acknowledge that, JCCs, we're no stranger to a lot of this, right? We've mentioned Pittsburgh, we've mentioned, natural disasters. JCC's experienced the bomb threats of 2017. So we're no strangers. So for those of us who are on the call and have dealt with this before, want to honor you and the work that you've done here. And however this exemplary resource from Ishai can further all of our work, and for those that haven't been involved in responding to an emergency in this way, can help you think about the work that you can do before it occurs and as it occurs. We have this for you. So forever grateful. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you again, JReady. Thank you again, Dr. Ishai Dror. And we'll be sending this out shortly. JResponders, you're the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye from Israel.